This is what I've been looking forward to tonight. This is our Champion Award. And the Champion Award is for someone who has supported the transgender community, who is a non-transgender person, at least we don't know that they are. And it's been so strong that we just feel like we have to do something. This year, back to the fact that it rained. And when the rain started, one of the things the Transgender Foundation of America did was we started a fund so that we could cover the expenses for people that are transgender, genderqueer, and intersex who normally have trouble accessing services. Usually there are more fees for them, they don't have IDs that match what they look like, there are all sorts of problems with it. So we started a fund figuring we'd have to pay for that. As the shelters opened, we had people at every one of them checking for discrimination. They were checking any kind of discrimination, because we figured that's what we'll be doing the rest of the year. Well, we didn't find any. This is really sort of cool. We worked 20 to 30 years, maybe longer, trying to get here. And we found one shelter that was discriminating, was faith-based, and the person who was there said, well, they're discriminating against virtually everyone that's not exactly like them, but don't worry about it, they have a foot of water that's coming up fast, they're moving everyone to Georgia Brown. Every other shelter in Harris County just took people that needed help and helped them. They didn't care about anything else. So my question was, how did this happen? This is sort of unexpected, nice but unexpected. And every time I would talk to someone that was involved in making it happen, there would always be this little thing that would go back to one person. They would say, well, you know, Judge Emmett sort of made sure that that's the way we were doing things. Or Judge Emmett made that okay. And I heard it over and over and over and over again. And so after we thought about it, we're like, wow, this is exactly what we've asked for. And so, Judge Emmett, would you come up here? And so basically, we would like to begin with our Champion Award because you did exactly what we would want, and that is treat people as people. Now, I suspect there's a few words that are going to be said.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little while, so you may as well. you might get a bite. Because, first, I follow Jeff Linder a lot, and so being able to follow him again tonight is appropriate. Because the truth of the matter is, and certainly Mayor Parker knows this, I'm the face of the county, but it's people like Jeff that really keep everybody safe. And I go out and pretty much tell what they say to do. And I'm going to answer a question about Jeff, and, because people ask me, is he really that rumpled and grumpy in real life? And I say, yeah, he really is. And he goes without sleep for days at a time, but he does a great job. So, Jeff, I congratulate you along with the group tonight. And I felt like I was kicked in the gut a couple of weeks ago when I was in a meeting and I got an email that Joe Strauss wasn't running again. Because I'm like everybody else, and I was in a meeting with Garnet Coleman, and I thought he literally was going to just lose it in the meeting, because all of us know the importance of Speaker Strauss has had. And in fact, before he ever made an announcement, I'm doing the State of the County November 28th, and I had already reached out, and he had agreed to introduce me at that State of the County. And I was doing that to be real blunt and send the signal to Dan Patrick and folks that, look, I side with Strauss, I don't side with you guys. And I could tell you Dan Patrick stories, but I won't. I will just leave you, I'm not going to leave you, I'm going to tell you another story later on. But my first meeting with him ended with him leaning across the desk, putting his hand out to my wife Gwen and saying, you know, if your husband and I don't do the right things now, our children and grandchildren are going to be surrounded by people who aren't like us. It's the most horrifying thing I've ever heard in politics. And yeah, you're sitting with your mouth open just going, really? Did he say it? He really did. So that's kind of the life I get to live. But I came into this job with life outside of politics. And I think too often we judge things in a political realm when really we ought to just step back and judge them in a human realm. And certainly getting to know Anise and Kathy, you know, great people. You know, why would I disagree? She did not have the privilege of having a hurricane, which she could point out that, hey, I was married, we didn't have hurricanes. So, I'm not going to remember that for some future effort. But I do want to tell you a very serious story, and I'm sorry to take a little bit longer, but that's one reason I wanted to be here tonight. Back around the year 2000, I was running a trade association called the National Industrial Transportation League. That organization represented shippers, you know, people who moved freight all over the country. And there was a man named Tom. And Tom lived in Portland, Oregon, and he was about 50 years old, and been married and had 2 grown children. And he was on the board of directors. And he called me kind of late summer. We were getting ready to have our annual meeting in North Carolina, interestingly enough. And he said, Ed, I'm going to have to resign from the board because I've decided to live the rest of my life as a woman. And I grew up in East Texas. I'm sorry, this was way out of my realm. And so I said, well, Tom, let's talk about this, because I'm curious. This is beyond anything I've dealt with. And we talked about it, and I said, well, you certainly don't have to resign. It's an elected position, and if you get reelected in November, you're fine on the board. And he explained he was going to be known as Tracy after that. And we had some hilarious conversations, I will say, because, and think about North Carolina, again, back almost 20 years ago. Hadn't gotten a whole lot better, but nevertheless. But I asked him a simple question, and this simple question has sort of illuminated the whole issue for me. I said, well, Tom, and I kept calling him Tom, and I kept saying, I mean Tracy, you know, because don't hold that against us. We have trouble making that transition. I said, which bathroom are you going to use? I didn't realize how far ahead of the curve I was on that. And he said, well, in Oregon, I said, North Carolina is not Oregon. And I said, and you need to be very careful. And that's, we had that conversation. And then we had a conversation about how it was going to happen and the hormones and the sex change operation. And he said he was taking his money to go to Thailand. And I said, why Thailand? He said, well, it's less expensive. And I said, I'm not sure that's something I'd do on a low-bid basis. And so we got to be pretty close over the years. And interestingly enough, he was reelected twice to the board. And the person on the board who became closest to him was the ultimate good old boy from Mississippi, who was kind of like me. He just kind of went, I don't relate to this at all, but I'm kind of fascinated. And you know, so Tracy Whalen was on the board all the way until I left. And I don't know when Tracy actually left the board. So when this whole issue came up, I went back to Tracy and thought, well, why is this even an issue? I mean, I don't get it. It wasn't an issue when I was president of the National Industrial Transportation League. Why should it be an issue when I'm county judge? Why should it be an issue for the lieutenant governor? Why should it be an issue for anybody else? Why don't we just all live and get along? So everything we do at the county kind of has that direction. And so I'll put this in a place of honor. I really appreciate this. Thank you all very much.